So welcome to the time video gaming scared me. And it did. It did. It's a real thing. I've wanted to talk about it for a long time, and I thought I'd present it this way. And yeah, has there ever been any times in your life you played video games and you're like, oh no, things are changing, things are not good, things are going a really bad direction with video gaming, like DLC or something like that, that really bothered you for the future? And for us to talk about the future, I need to go back to the past and the time that video gaming scared me. And it really did. Okay, we have to go back to the late 90s, early 2000s. This is a significant time in video gaming history because, my God, we were going from 2D games to 3D games. And that was a huge thing for the entire industry. So a lot of games that I was playing, like the Mario series in 2D, were going into 3D. And a lot of these things were very, very successful and unbelievable. When I first saw Mario 64, I thought, this is the future. And I embraced it. I was not scared by that. Yes, there were some other things that went into 3D that were not so successful, and they didn't quite get the 2D elements right in 3D, and that was a huge thing. And it's taken us to now to really figure that out, and I think they've done extraordinarily well over the years, going from that 2D to 3D. So we were going through that change, right? We're in the middle of that cloud of things, and it was very, very confusing and very exciting and scary, just for that fact. But that's not what scared me. That was a big change though. Okay, here it is. Here's the thing that started to make me sweat a little bit. Was, yes, we were going into 3D. A lot of games like the Final Fantasy series that had always been, 2D, overhead, side view. All of a sudden we were getting Final Fantasy VII in 3D. And this was cool, right? We're getting the 3D treatment. And this is the aspect I was talking about, where video games were getting better in 3D. And a lot of people were resisting, and a lot of people were like, no, I like this. I like the CD-ROM format. I liked what this is offering. And here is the thing that is scary, and I'm going to get into it all. It was offering, with Final Fantasy VII, huge cinematics. A brand new way to tell the story. We could do it in 2D to a certain extent, with just drawn backgrounds and things like that. Some animation to do back then a little bit, but now we could go 3D and have the characters talking and give these elaborate storylines and an insight in a cinematic look into these worlds. And it was amazing. I mean, when I saw Final Fantasy VII's cinemas, I was like, I could not believe what I was seeing, and I was so looking forward to this game, and it came out, and did it live up to the hype? Oh my God, did it ever. It really, really did. And I think at that point, the entire industry was like, look at what they're doing with Final Fantasy VII and these cinemas, these cutscenes. Wow, we need to do that for our games. And here's the thing, the time that was really starting to bother me was the early 2000s. And it started with one game, and this is not the scary one, but it's starting to worry me. Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty came out. Another game that was, big hype, big changes back then, really exciting stuff. And I started to play this game, and just kind of like the original Metal Gear, it was kind of, they were going for some cinemas there. And that was a big change, and it's like, whoa, we're really part of the story now. But here's the thing. All of a sudden, I felt that almost the cinemas were almost taken away from the gameplay. That we're getting these huge cinemas that were breathtaking and incredible and engaging, and these story elements with all the characters talking to each other back and forth. But I was just like, okay, can I just get to the action? That's what I wanted to do. And I felt at this point, I was starting to see the beginning where the cinemas and the storylines were getting away from the gameplay. And I'm not saying that the gameplay is not great in this game. I'm saying it absolutely is. But I just started to see that the story and all of those things were getting a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger at that time in the early 2000s. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And I played the game and I loved it. I finished it, even though the change of writing and all that, I mean, that was standing. But the game was really good, but I just noticed, I'm like, wow, they're really concentrating on the story, and I like that aspect, but it was just getting a little heavy, and a little heavy, and a little heavier, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. And I started to see it go an absolutely ridiculous level with a game that I really like, but this is the time that it honestly scared me. With this game here, Xena Saga One, a spiritual successor to the Xenogears game that came out on the PlayStation 1, a game that is revered and is up there as one of the top RPGs on the PS1. Huge in scope, gigantic for those days. And it was on the PS1. So here we go with Namco and Monolith saying, hey, let's do a brand new trilogy. So I think it's supposed to be like 6 games. And they're like, no, okay, let's bring it down to about 3 games. And we got this game, and this is the first one. And I'd seen back then in the early days of the internet, I was like, oh, okay. Like, you know, seen some like little movies and things like that. And I'm like, this is right up my alley. This game was tailor-made for me, a JRPG, building off the some ideas in Xenogears. I'm like, I'm sold, here's my money, you know, like type of thing. I got a funny story about this. I think I've told this once before, till I get to it. I remember going to EB Games up in Canada, driving home, and the excitement of this game was like building. I'm like, oh my god. And here's a weird moment, I'm gonna get to it. I'm in my car, I buy the game. This is not what scared me, this is just a strange coincidence in the universe that I do have to mention. I pull up to this red light, and I'm kind of looking at my game. I've taken out the plastic wrap, and it's a red light, so I'm just looking at it going, oh wow, look at the back of it. And there's a car beside me had to stop for the red light too. It was 2 lanes of traffic. And this is the strangest, this is like one of those weird moments, like the multiverse or something. I look over, and there was a guy in his car, and he was looking at his copy of Xena Saga 1 as well. Swear to God, who would make up a story like that? It's too weird. I just wanted to mention that because it's a part of the history of this experience. So that was kind of scary. It's kind of weird. But I get home, and I put this game in, and I'm like, here we go. I can't wait for this RPG experience. And the cinema begins. And the cinema just is going, and it's going for some time, and it's epic. It's absolutely epic. I mean, oh my god, with the Zohars, and oh my god, the Genosis and all that stuff, Cosmos. But it's going, and it's going, and it's a whole big thing of an ancient dig and all this, and it's going on for a very long time. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. But it was a bit longer than I expected. And then I got to a bit of the game, and then this game. For any of you out there who have played this game, you know, there is a great game in here when you can get to it. But you have to sit through these elaborate, long, cinematic sequences that are just playing. And then when you get past that, it's just characters talking. And that's cool, and it built in the story, and I really appreciated it. I sat there. I remember there was a cinema, I swear to God, it felt like it was going for 40 minutes. I even remember it being a bit longer than that, but that's my memory of playing it back in the day. So I'd sit through these gigantic story sections, and I get to play a little bit of gameplay. And I was like, oh, this is so cool, more. And this is what scared me. I really mean this. I thought we were going into a different time in gaming where it was all going to be about the movies and just characters talking, and you didn't really interact. You did a little bit. It just felt like it was getting taken away from me. It felt a bit that way with Metal Gear. I started to feel a tiny bit, but with Xena Saga, I really felt it. I'm like, they don't want me playing the game. They just want me to watch the game. And that's what I thought it was all about. I thought, this is going to be the future of video gaming? And I was nervous. I remember sweating going, I like this stuff, but I like the gameplay. I like interacting. I like wandering around the world and exploring. And I thought, is this going to be taken away from me? Have we just entered into the format of the PS2, it's a DVD player, and that was a big thing at the time, is you're just going to play DVD games that you watch. Oh my God, I remember sitting many times thinking, this feels really weird. And I like going into 3D, but because we've gone into 3D into such a way that it's all about the movies now, oh my God, I just want to play the game. And this was the time. This is what I thought. And there's a lot of other games to come that would be heavy cinemas. But I think Xena Saga was the one that really pushed it over the line. And yes, do you know what? Nowadays, is there a lot of games where there's a lot of talking, a lot of story elements. Persona is a great game, but there's a lot of padding with characters talking. The Legend of Heroes series is the same way, a lot of characters talking. But for a lot of us out there that like stories, that's great, because there is also the gameplay with those games, right? Persona has the gameplay. It lets you loose, and you go and have a good time, and then you have a lot of story elements to reflect back on. And so I find that nowadays we've got a better balance with that, but back then I was like, Xena Saga, you crazy game, you crazy. I was like, put it this way, when the second game came out, the second game got released, if you pre-ordered it, you got this. What is this, you say? Look at this. Limited edition movie DVD it comes with of the cutscenes of the first game, so you could understand what you're getting into in the second game. Do you know how long? Do you know how long this DVD is? It's 4 hours long. I'm not kidding. With the cinemas of the first game, and I was just like, this is crazy. So that's another aspect where I was like, they're getting carried away. They're getting carried away, and it really scared me. I thought, oh my God, what does video gaming become? A big movie watching thing? And so that was the time. The late 90s, early 2000s were such a strange time, I think, for everybody in the industry, especially the video game players. We were kind of like watching the developers trying to figure it out. And, we were rooting for them, always rooting for them. And we mostly got a lot of really good products and all that. But there were some products that came out that just scared the living daylights out of me. I was like, what's going on? And all of that. Has there been any moments like that for you guys where you had a moment you're like, oh my God, they've changed video gaming somehow. They've done this, they've done that. I don't think I'm into video games anymore. I don't think gaming is going to be the same as when I remembered it. And that's the thing. Video gaming never stays the same. It is always evolving. Even though it always feels like it's about the same, it's evolving. If you look at the past with Mario back in the day to Mario Odyssey, where we came now, and see that transition, it's extraordinary, and it's really gotten a lot better. The gameplay and all of that, the open worldness nowadays that they can do, extraordinary. And I really think that they've gotten 3D right from 2D. I think they've figured out the equation, so I'm not nervous about that anymore. The movies are completely where they should be. To be honest with you, can you believe I'll say this? I honestly wish for a bit more cinemas nowadays. And sometimes there's like a little bit and then you go. And sometimes I'm like, oh, can we get a bit more story? Like when I play an Ys game, I'm like, can we just have a bit more of that beautiful anime opening and a little bit more of the characters talking in that regard, using that kind of cinematic look and all that. So go figure, I'm asking for it again. I think, yeah, it was pushed on me so hardcore with this game. But I don't want to turn anybody off with Xena Saga One. It's a really interesting game. Great gameplay, really moody, atmospheric, and big. The game is big. If you played Xenogears back in the day, you know what to expect from Xena Saga. It's huge in scope. It took 3 games to explain it all. It took DVDs of 4 hours to figure out the entire story. I remember when I got to the 3rd game, I'm like, I think I know what's going on. I think I do. I was keeping it all together. I mean, the story is so great and big in scope that maybe they just needed to tell it purely cinematic. I mean, that way. Maybe it's the only way they knew how to do it, rather than just introducing like gameplay elements to explain certain things. The game was big. The game was a lot bigger than all of us, I think, and all of that. So, guys, that is my episode on the time video gaming scared me. It was a crazy time and one that I will never forget. So, anyways, guys, until next time.